Right now, in the grand halls of Washington, D.C., a political drama of epic proportions is unfolding, complete with late-night sessions, backroom deals, and a title that sounds like it was chosen by a particularly enthusiastic real estate agent. It's called President Trump's Big, Beautiful Bill, a massive piece of legislation that aims to reshape huge parts of American life. Think of it as a legislative everything bagel, stuffed with sweeping changes to healthcare, taxes, immigration, and environmental policy all at once. The reason everyone from your cable news uncle to your politically active cousin is talking about it is because its scale is simply enormous, and its consequences, for better or worse, could be felt for a generation. The immediate reason for all the fuss is that the bill has reached a critical stage in the Senate. Lawmakers are currently locked in what's known as a vote-a-Rama, which is essentially a legislative demolition derby where senators frantically propose and vote on amendments for hours on end. This isn't just political theater, it's the final, frantic push to either pass this monumental bill or kill it. President Trump is pushing hard, hoping to sign it by July 4th, turning Independence Day into a victory lap. The tension is palpable because the vote is expected to be razor thin, meaning the fate of this big beautiful bill could come down to a single senator changing their mind in the middle of the night. So, what exactly is this bill? At its core, it's a Republican-led effort to enact a conservative vision for the country through a single, sprawling package. It combines deep spending cuts to social programs with significant funding increases for priorities like border security, all while making major changes to the tax code. The Congressional Budget Office, which is like the official scorekeeper for government spending, projects this bill will add a staggering $3.3 trillion to the national deficit over the next 10 years. That number alone is a major source of the controversy, sparking intense debate about whether the proposed changes are worth mortgaging the country's financial future. The bill's nickname, the Big Beautiful Bill, comes directly from President Trump, who has a knack for branding his policies with memorable, often grandiose names. This branding is part of a larger political strategy to sell the legislation to the American public as a bold, transformative plan that will fix the nation's problems. However, opponents argue the name is a misleadingly cheerful wrapper on a package filled with policies that will harm millions of vulnerable Americans. This clash between the bill's shiny marketing and its deeply divisive contents is precisely why it has become the biggest, most contentious political battle of the year, with both sides digging in for a fight to the finish. The battle over the Big Beautiful Bill has drawn a stark line down the middle of the Senate, perfectly illustrating the deep ideological chasm between the two major parties. On one side, you have the Republicans, who largely champion the bill as a necessary course correction for the country. They argue that it will stimulate the economy by making corporate tax breaks permanent, which they believe encourages businesses to invest and create jobs. They also frame the deep cuts to social programs like Medicaid and food stamps not as cruelty, but as a way to promote self-sufficiency and reduce what they see as wasteful government spending and dependency. On the other side of the aisle, the Democrats are in staunch, unified opposition. They view the bill as a morally bankrupt giveaway to corporations and the ultra-wealthy at the direct expense of working-class families, the elderly, and the poor. They point to the CBO's projection that nearly 12 million people could lose their health insurance as proof that the bill is fundamentally cruel. During the vote-a-Rama, Democrats have been forcing votes on amendments they know will fail, a tactic designed to put Republicans on the record for voting against popular measures and to highlight what they call the GOP's misplaced priorities. It's a classic political strategy to make their opponents take tough, politically painful votes. The internal politics of the Republican Party add another layer of drama to this entire saga. To pass the bill, they can only afford to lose a couple of votes from their own side, and right now, the margins are dangerously slim. A few key Republican senators like Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski are known for being more moderate and have expressed serious reservations about the bill's impact, particularly the healthcare cuts. Meanwhile, even some staunch conservatives are balking at the massive deficit spending, creating a precarious balancing act for the party leadership. The potential need for Vice President J.D. Vance to cast a tie-breaking vote shows just how close this legislative knife fight truly is. Even prominent figures outside of Washington are getting involved. Elon Musk, a major Trump supporter, has publicly condemned the bill for its enormous addition to the national debt, going so far as to threaten to create a new political party to challenge lawmakers who vote for it. This public spat between a president and one of his most famous backers highlights the unusual and fractured alliances in this debate. It's not just a simple Democrat versus Republican fight. It's a complex power struggle involving fiscal conservatives, party loyalists, and powerful business interests, all with a stake in the outcome. Let's peek under the hood of this legislative behemoth, because the details are where the real impact lies. First up is healthcare. The bill proposes to slash federal funding for Medicaid by $930 billion over the next decade. For an everyday family, this could mean that a parent who relies on Medicaid for health coverage might lose it. The bill also introduces new work requirements for many adults on Medicaid and blocks federal funding to Planned Parenthood for a year. These changes are intended to reduce government spending, but critics argue they will leave millions of the most vulnerable Americans without access to essential medical care, from checkups to life-saving treatments. Next, let's talk about immigration and border security, which receive a massive infusion of cash. The bill allocates over $46 billion for border barriers and another $45 billion for new immigrant detention facilities. One of the most talked about projects is a new 5,000-bed facility in Florida nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz. To put that in perspective, the funding aims to hire 10,000 new ICE personnel with a goal of arresting 3,000 immigrants per day. For people living in immigrant communities, this translates to a heightened state of fear and uncertainty, while those seeking legal pathways to immigration, including asylum, will face significantly higher fees for the application process. The bill also takes a sharp turn on energy and environmental policy. It systematically dismantles financial incentives for renewable energy sources like wind and solar, phasing out tax credits by 2027. In a truly bold move, it even introduces a new tax on renewable energy. According to one analysis, this pivot back towards fossil fuels could directly hit people's wallets, with projected increases in household energy bills, particularly in states that are just beginning to build out their renewable infrastructure. Supporters argue this frees the market from government interference, while opponents say it's a massive step backward in the fight against climate change. Finally, there are the tax provisions. The bill makes several corporate tax cuts from 2017 permanent, a move that supporters claim will ensure long-term economic growth and keep American businesses competitive on the global stage. For the average person, the direct benefits of this are less clear and highly debated. While proponents say a strong business climate eventually helps everyone, critics argue this is another example of trickle-down economics that disproportionately benefits large corporations and their shareholders, while the national debt continues to balloon, leaving future generations to foot the bill for today's tax cuts for the wealthy. As the marathon Vote-a-Rama session in the Senate inches toward its conclusion, the nation holds its breath. What happens next is a straightforward yet incredibly high-stakes process. After all the amendments are voted on, the Senate will hold a final vote on the entire big beautiful bill. If it passes even by a single vote, the legislative package will be sent back to the House of Representatives for their approval, as the Senate made changes to the version they originally passed. Given the urgency and the political capital invested, the House would likely vote on it quickly, sending it straight to President Trump's desk for his signature. If the bill becomes law, the changes it contains would begin to roll out across the country, affecting Americans in deeply personal ways. A family with a member on Medicaid might suddenly face a desperate search for affordable health insurance. A small business owner in the solar panel industry could see their prospects dim as federal incentives disappear. Conversely, a large corporation would celebrate the permanence of its lower tax rate. The nearly $100 billion allocated for border security and immigration enforcement would translate into very visible construction projects and a more aggressive ICE presence in communities nationwide, for better or worse depending on your perspective. However, if the bill fails in the Senate, if just a few Republican senators decide to vote no, the immediate outcome would be a stunning political defeat for President Trump and the GOP leadership. The legislative process would grind to a halt, and the big beautiful bill would be dead, at least in its current form. This failure would likely trigger a massive political blame game within the Republican Party, further deepening the divisions we're already seeing. For Democrats, it would be a monumental victory. validating their strategy of total opposition and energizing their base ahead of future elections. Ultimately, the fate of this bill is more than just a political headline. It's a defining moment that will set the direction of the country for years to come. Whether it passes or fails, the outcome will have profound consequences. It will determine who gets access to healthcare, how the nation addresses immigration, what kind of energy future we invest in, and who shoulders the country's tax burden. This isn't just a vote-a-Rama for the senators in Washington, it's a decision that will ripple outward and shape the daily realities of millions of Americans, making this one of the most consequential legislative battles in recent memory.